Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 3 and we will be presenting about the solid waste management in Singapore. My name is Nur Shazwa binti Azhar with other 4 group members, which is Nur Aisyah binti Rosli, Nur Aisyah binti Muhammad Amin, Wan Fatini Atika binti Wan Arid, and lastly Muhammad Hazim bin Yusri. For the introduction, this presentation will present about the waste generation in Singapore, which is about the waste collection, waste treatment and disposal system in Singapore. Next, there is also the problems and strategy to overcome waste generated in Singapore. And lastly, the comparison of the solid waste management in Singapore and in Malaysia.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Hazim bin Yusri and I will continue on waste generation in Singapore. This is Singapore's waste statistics and overall recycling in 2020. As you can see, the top 5 waste generated comes from paper, cardboard, ferrous metal, plastics, construction and demolition, and food. These 5 wastes made up to 75% of total waste generated in 2020. From this data, ferrous metal, construction and demolition, used slag, non-ferrous metal and scrap tires achieve above 90% recycling rate. This has made 52% of the total waste are recycled while the rest are being disposed. These are the total waste generated in Singapore in the last 5 years. The volume of waste generated fell significantly in 2020 compared to previous year. From 2016 to 2019, the waste generated were above 7 million tons, but in 2020, it drops by 19% from 7.2 million tons in 2019 to 5.8 million tons. This decrease in waste generation is mainly due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, which causes the pause in non-essential economic activities during lockdown, lower demand for goods, and the restriction in the movement of people.
My name is Wan Fatini Atika binti Wan Arid and I will present the waste collection, treatment and disposal system. First, I will present the waste collection in Singapore. The collection system are handled by public waste collectors that are appointed by Singapore's National Environment Agency, NEA. Collection areas are divided into 6 geographical sectors, there are 3 companies that are in charge for the waste collection in each of their appointed areas. The sectors and companies are shown in this map by National Environment Agency 2022. There are 3 companies which are Alba WNH Smart City Pty Ltd, Sam Waste Pty Ltd, and 800 Super Waste Management Pty Ltd. Each household in Singapore are required to pay the refuse collection fees, in which the amount is about $9.63 per month. Next is the waste collection process. There are 2 methods of waste collection, which are single chute and bulk bin system. Refuse chute systems are usually equipped in high-rise buildings such as public housing estate, private condominium, shopping and commercial complexes. It is a system where the refuses are thrown in an inlet hopper that are usually located at each of the apartment floor, and the refuse will go down the chute, which is a vertical pipe, and until it reaches the ground floor, where the collection bin chambers are located. For landed properties, they use bulk bin system. The bins are located in front of each premises along the roadway. Next is the storage of mixed waste prior to collection. Refuses are mixed in a common bin chambers and then transferred to a spiral waste bin. The system is used as it can sanitarily store large quantity of waste by compaction before being collected by collection truck. Lastly, Collection truck operated by two collection crews will collect the refuses daily as to prevent odor and pest problems surrounding the collection bins. Next, I will continue with the waste treatment in Singapore. Singapore adopted waste-to-energy incineration plants as the waste treatment system. Currently, there are four waste-to-energy plants, which are Tuas Incineration Plant, Senoko Waste-to-Energy Plant, Tuas South Incineration Plant, and Keppel Sagres Waste-to-Energy Plant. Why Singapore decided to treat their waste by incineration? It is because Singapore is a small country that lack of land. Incineration can reduce 90% of the waste volume successfully. It requires 850 to 1000 degrees Celsius and converted the waste to ash, which is approximately 10% of its original volume. The heat produced during combustion will result in superheated steams in boilers, which will power the turbo generators and create electricity. The ash will be transported to the Tuas Marine Transport Station for disposal in the Semakau landfill off the coast of Tuas. Fun fact, in 2015, it is reported that 2 to 3% of total energy is generated by treating 2.88 million pounds of waste. Last but not least is waste disposal in Singapore. The ash from waste-to-energy plants and incinerable materials are transferred temporarily to Tuas Marine Transport Station. Barge, which are fully loaded, will be covered to prevent loads exposed to the air and water. The waste will be transported to Semakau landfill. Semakau landfill is located at 8 kilometers south of Singapore mainland. About 0.19 million tons of waste was landfilled in 2015, in which about 2% of total waste generated. Semakau landfill is estimated to completely fill in 2035.
I'm Asharutri will be present about the problems and strategies to overcome it for the waste management in Singapore. The population of Singapore are rising. The waste generation also is predicted to rise. Thus, Singapore has focused on two areas while dealing with increasing amount of waste, which are increasing recycling rates and reducing waste generation. As you can see, there is a flow of waste management process in Singapore, which consists of 5 processes, including collection, sorting and segregation, recycling, treatment, and disposal. For this slide, I have listed the problems and strategies in a table for each processes. For the waste collection, the problems they identify are limitation of single chute system for the source of segregation, odor and pest disturbance, and the difficulty to hire and retain manpower. To overcome it by installing of a dual or multiple chute system, mechanizing the refuse collection process through PWCS, also known as pneumatic waste conveyor system, and adopting collection trucks with features to minimize the manpower. For the waste sorting and segregation, the problems are high labor intensity and low efficiency, high line update by MRF, and failure to accept recyclables contaminated with organic waste. To overcome it by enhancing the automation of MRF to improve productivity and recovery yield, and adopting MBT, also known as mechanical biological treatment to sort and treat the solid waste, and developing multiple tiered sorting facilities to minimize the land footprint. Next, for the waste
recycling, the problems are the lack of public participation in recycling, low value and lack of demand for recovered materials, and encourage recycling of specific waste streams such as plastics and food waste. And the strategies to overcome it are food waste segregation and offsite treatment and upcycling waste into high value materials or products. Next, for the waste treatment, the problems are build new waste to energy plants with larger capacity, limitation of space for new WTE plants, and the emissions of carbon and other gases from WTE plant. To solve it by implementing cost-effective treatment technologies, proposing alternative thermal treatment technologies, and incorporating modern flue gas cleaning system. Last, for the waste disposal, the problem is reducing the amount of waste transferred to the landfill to extend its lifespan. To overcome it by utilizing the IBA, also known as incineration bottom ash, for recovering the metals that have been produced from the landfill.
My name is Aisyah binti Amin. I will continue with the comparison of solid waste management of Singapore versus Malaysia. Okay, next is the waste generation. Both Singapore and Malaysia are strongly affected by the growth of human population and booming economy. As shown in table 1, waste generation in Peninsular Malaysia generate waste from 6 million ton in 1998 to 6.2 million ton in 2010. It is estimated that in 2020, about 10 million ton of waste generated daily. Malaysia created around 36,000 ton of solid waste, and in upcoming year, it was predicted to rise up with until 50,000 ton per day. As illustrated on figure 1, looking at the overall amount of waste created through time, it is clear that Singapore has flattened the curve of waste production. Approximately 7.8 million ton of waste generated at its peak in 2015, followed by 6 years of declining number after the peak. In 2020, National Environment Agency of Singapore reported waste generated was 90% lower than in 2019. Additionally, Singapore observed a decrease in the total waste generation for 4th year in a row, resulting in less waste production compared to Malaysia. The composition of solid waste in Malaysia is highly contained organic waste with about 45%, while in Singapore, construction and ferrous metal is highly contribute to solid waste about 30%. Singapore, as economy in Singapore keep growing, hence many of these waste come from construction and building. Next, continue with disposal. Malaysia is extensively reliant on open dumping and landfill compared to other waste such as 3R facility or composting. And about 65% of municipal solid waste is disposed to landfill, and most of these landfill sites in Malaysia have exceed their capacity for operation. Malaysia has 300 landfill sites. However, only 170 landfill is still operating. Bukit Agar Sanitary Landfill, located at Selangor, is set as benchmark. It is the first sanitary landfill and the most advanced in Southeast Asia for solid waste management. As for Singapore, since it is a small country, it has limited space for landfill site. That's why it has only one landfill, which is Semakau Landfill. Singapore has successfully decreased its number of waste disposed into landfill, with only 10% of this waste discarded through landfill. Singapore has 4 established incineration plants. This is a waste to energy technology where they process the waste and generate electricity at the same time. In Singapore, incineration decreases up waste up until 90%, freeing up the landfill. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, incineration plant is still in a small scale. The country has 5 mini incinerator. However, one of incinerator in Tioman is shut down because of high operating costs. This is because municipal solid waste in Malaysia are high in moisture content. So it require more work and cost of fuel to operate this kind of condition. Apart from that, Malaysia has implemented waste segregation in June 26 with penalty up until 500 ringgit to promote waste separation in household. However, it is not appropriately practiced. Also, National Recycling Day on 11th November on every year is initiative of the government of Malaysia to spread awareness of 3R, which is reduce, reuse and recycle. The problem with the solid waste management in Malaysia is that we are lacking of data of solid waste and recycling. They rely on the local authority for this database. Hence, there is no standardization for the waste generation and composition survey. Additionally, Malaysia have improper waste management due to lack of skilled manpower, facility and limitation of technology. Because of this, incinerator technology in Malaysia is not well developed. And in terms of facility, rural areas are still not equipped with proper waste collection source, and they rely on disposing through burial and open dumping, which leads to illegal dumping. In contrast, waste management in Singapore is efficient over Malaysia. They excessively apply waste minimization in the country by source reduction and recycling. Source reduction is via incineration, which effective to minimize waste that being disposed into landfill. Meanwhile, recycling in Singapore is efficient with 54% higher than Malaysia recycling rate of 28%. Singapore has throwaway mentality where they separate waste to recover the recyclable and reusable product. This shows that 3R is more practiced by Singaporeans. Due to its advanced technology, Singapore waste management is efficient than Malaysia. Latest, Singapore has launched its first automatic recycling plant for home appliance. This machine can process e-waste such as television, refrigerator, washing machine, and computer. About 95% of the material can be recovered and 80% can be recycled. This shows that technology in Singapore help this country to manage their waste properly.
Lastly, I will present about the conclusion and the recommendation. As for the conclusion, we can see that Singapore has come up with a wise strategy to handle with the waste generation in their country. One of the strategy is by implementing the recycling habits in their daily life to cut the waste generation. Other than that, there is also an invention of more advanced technology are made by them. Therefore, Malaysia can take a good step to reduce our waste generation by implementing the strategy that have been made by Singapore. For the recommendation, first one is recycle, which is the rate of recycling activity should be increased among Malaysians to cut at least small amount of solid waste generation. Next is the long-term policies development. The lifestyle and demographic change need to be considered in the Malaysian policies. And lastly, disposal. The incineration plant should be multiplied in Malaysia to incinerate our solid waste rather than we dump all the waste in our landfill. I think that's all from us. Thank you.